Rose replied to the email asking, "Is that you?" hoping it wasn't Gurim. Just then, Leo entered her room, playfully asking if she had missed him. He put a pendant around her neck, while casually inquiring if she was close to Yunsu. Rose replied that it was long before Leo was even born, so there was no point in asking her. She had no idea where they were. Leaning in closer, Leo asked why she had changed when she used to be so sweet to him. She simply responded that it was because she hadn't expected him to grow up like this. Leo, unfazed, just grinned and remarked that he had grown up to be handsome. Before leaving, he asked her out on a date, but she refused. After he left, Rose checked her email again. Gurim had confirmed his identity and asked to meet her. Meanwhile, Gurim was quietly sneaking out of Yunsu's room when he ran into Yunsu himself. Yunsu immediately demanded to know what he was doing in his bedroom. In response, Gurim pulled out a button, father's button, and said that he had found something. Without waiting for a response, he left, stating that he was taking it with him. The next day, Gurim found himself troubled. He knew he wouldn't be able to sneak into Yunsu's room again after last night's incident. He considered asking Yunsu to go out, but he knew that Yunsu wouldn't listen to him. As he observed Yunsu and Chaya interacting, he initially assumed they were about to bicker again. However, he soon noticed something different this time. Shocked, he realized that Yunsu's behavior toward her had changed. At first, Gurim wondered when Yunsu and Chaya had become so close, but he quickly realized that the one who had changed was Park Yunsu. He looked oddly pleased, even when Chaya was cursing at him. As she walked away, still cursing, Gurim couldn't help but think that she was right. Yunsu had really lost his mind. Later, Gurim casually brought up the topic and asked Yunsu if he liked Chaya. Yunsu didn't reply at first, and Gurim figured that, of course, it wouldn't be easy for someone as egotistical as Park Yunsu to admit it. But then, to his surprise, Yunsu simply smiled and asked, "Why?" Gurim was taken aback. He hadn't denied it. He told Yunsu that lately, he couldn't seem to keep his hands off Chaya and stared at her like crazy. Yunsu thought for a moment before asking, "Am I not allowed to?" Gurim was completely shocked and asked if he was being serious, but Yunsu dismissed him, saying it was none of his concern, before walking away. Gurim smirked to himself, thinking that he had just gathered some valuable information. Next, he went to Chaya and asked what she thought of Yunsu. As expected, she immediately said that she hated living with him. So, Gurim asked if she wanted to go out, but she refused, saying that aside from Yunsu, everything else about the island was perfect. He then told her to ask Yunsu to go out since he needed to leave. Chea agreed, but only if she got paid for it. Gurim was dumbfounded. She insisted that she wouldn't do it for free, and he muttered that she was just as crazy as Yunsu before reluctantly agreeing. That night, Chea went to Yunsu and told him that she wanted to go out. He bluntly refused. He reminded her that she already knew what would happen if they went outside. She then offered to do all the dishes, but it didn't work. Thinking for a moment, she pointed to the scratch on her neck, reminding him that she had given him blood. Yunsu's face immediately turned red. The moment she pointed it out, he quickly turned his head away and agreed to her request. The next day, Gurim knocked on Chea's door, trying to wake her up since they had plans to go out. She walked out of her room, but headed straight to Yunsu. Standing in front of him, she told him that he annoyed her so much, then immediately fainted. She had come down with a fever. Gurim told her to eat, saying that Yunsu had declared they wouldn't go out unless she finished her meal. Chea was surprised and muttered that she was sick because of him. Then she hesitated before asking Gurim if it was really okay to go out, considering Yunsu didn't like it. He replied that they had to leave sooner or later. He couldn't live there forever. After Gurim left, Chaya thought to herself that she couldn't stay there forever either. She wondered if her sister and grandmother even realized she was missing from Korea. Would they even care if she died? Would they actually be happy about it? As she drifted off to sleep, she dreamed of a time when she was a child and had a fever. In her dream, her grandmother was trying to choke her. Meanwhile, Yunsu entered her room and saw her struggling in her sleep. She was gripping her own neck, gasping for help. He wondered what kind of dream she was having. Was someone choking her? Could it be him? It was possible. After all, he had tried to harm her in the past. But then she muttered the word grandma, and he realized it wasn't him, it was her own family. As he moved closer, she suddenly grabbed onto his shirt in her sleep. Tears ran down her face as she mumbled, "I will live." Hearing this triggered an old memory for Yunsu. He remembered the day father burned everything down. His mother had been trapped under the collapsing debris and she had told him to go. But he had refused. He had insisted that he would beg father to save her, just like he had saved him by turning him into a vampire. But his mother had refused. She had told him she would rather die than live as a monster. Yunsu had hesitated. Then, what about me? His mother had looked at him. She had told him to leave. You need to live. Promise me. You must live. Now in the present, Yunsu looked down at Chaya. He slowly reached out and took her hand, holding it firmly.